Hello, my friends, and welcome to continued coverage of GP Sao Paulo, coming away live from Brazil. My name's Riley Knight. In the booth, joining me, it is Aaron Forsyth, the Senior Design Director at R&D, and we have Breno Magalhães and Roberto Marotta here. And as we mentioned, this matchup, it is a nice and spicy one. We do have Red-Green Eldrazi on the left-hand side of your screen, facing off against 8-Rack on the right. And Red-Green Eldrazi is a deck that's performed at the highest level of Modern. It won a GP recently in the hands of Gregor Kowalski. So there's no doubting the power level of the deck. But
it has a pedigree, yep.
But wow, 8-Rack, huh? Well, this is not one we see too often.
No, it's a pet deck of many in this format. I think there's a lot of fun to be had griefing your opponent to this degree, where they can't cast any of their spells and they are slowly crushed to death on the rack.
That is the name of the game. We see things open up with an Inquisition of Kozilek. Now, obviously 8-Rack, a deck that is, I guess you could defensively call it something, cute. It's not necessarily a tier 1 strategy. But two things to note here. First of all, 8-1. 8-1. As a result, that's not to be sneezed at, not to be coughed at. Don't make any kind of sort of, illness-based spray towards this deck. The second thing is it's playing a lot of cards that are legitimately, in their own right, very, very good.
Right. I mean, the rack and the Shrieking Affliction are kind of the namesakes of the deck, but that's just the end game, and all of the ways you get there are awesome Magic cards: Liliana of the Veil, Lingering Souls, things like that. And this red-green deck's hand is not well set up to fight this. This rack's applying no pressure.
Yes, and this onslaught of discard, and we're talking about the high quality of the cards in the list. I mean, Inquisition and Thoughtseize, some of modern like all-star cards. These are absolute staples. And another Thoughtseize is going to tear Magalhães' hand to shreds here. He's down to just lands, Aaron.
Right. He does have an Eldrazi Temple, so there are plenty of cards he can draw here that will let him put out an awesome threat quickly.
Doesn't look like he's found one. He's found a Bloodbraid Elf instead. One of the favorite cards I know of Willie Adel, who is directing this show, the Brazilian Hall of Famer, has been fantastic to work alongside him this weekend. I want a Wrench Mind now as well. That's tricky stuff.
Wrench Mind is your opponent it's 2 mana, and your opponent must discard 2 cards unless they discard an artifact. But I don't believe there are any of those to be found in Breno's deck. So nope. 2 more lands to go, but that means he has a decent shot at casting that Bloodbraid this turn. Just
needs to find an untapped land. Nope, hasn't found it. Okay, we're going to see a Scavenging Ooze instead here. Checking out that graveyard there. No creatures for it to eat up on the from Marotta's side of things. It can, of course, jump on that Bloodbraid Elf, make it a 3/3. But Marotta, you'd think, would have the answer to it. Black is not short of creature removal here.
Marotta's low on lands. He's is that a Fatal Push? No, what is that one?
Yeah, that's a Fatal Push. Take care of that Scavenging Ooze. And in response, Magalhães is going to take the opportunity to gain a bit of life here. I think that was the F&M promo version.
Okay, so he must be casting something else because he put the mana through his Fetid Heath.
And it looks like we've got a Raven's Crime in hand. No, it's going to be the rack. Here we go. So this card, a weird one, a tricky one to sort of to get across here.
A great card from the 25th anniversary Grand Prix, though. This is from the very earliest days of Magic.
It was first printed in Antiquities?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go. This card, essentially, I mean, we can see the old version there, but what it does essentially is it deals X damage to you, or to an opponent, where X is 3 minus the number of cards they have in hand. So the more cards you have in hand, the better it is for you when facing off against the rack. And this is why we see rack decks wanting to strip their opponent's hands to nothing.
Right, so if you have 3 or more cards in hand, you're safe from the rack damaging you. But once you get down to 2, you take 1 damage a turn, and then more each card below that.
Look, this doll here is not having a good time.
That's the Stuffy doll.
Yeah.
He's appeared on many cards early in Magic, and we kind of immortalized him in his own card in Time Spiral. Stuffy doll. Yeah, the rack's been a build-around card, a pet card for people for the entirety of Magic's existence. Basically.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's something about tearing apart your opponent's hand and then punishing them on this torture device brings glee to many.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, this is very much the philosophy that fun is a zero-sum game.
That's right.
For people like Roberto Marotta here. Got another card that we've got a reader as well here, Aaron.
This is smallpox. So, right, he's going to lose his Hierarch, the Bloodbraid Elf he'd been holding for a few turns, one of his 3 lands.
Oh,
no. Which now he's going to be taking max damage from the rack. Now, Roberto had to lose a few things himself, one of his 2 lands and the card from his own hand. But he's betting that he's going to come out ahead over the long term from that play.
Yeah, because already the clock starts to tick now as the rack starts to rack up that damage. And Magala's really needed to cast that Bloodbraid Elf. That was his #1 way to get back in the game by essentially casting 2 spells.
He just never got to 4 mana.
Wasn't able to do it here. Another copy of the rack for Marauder. Looks like he may go for the Raven's Crime, however. No, okay. Double rack. Rack him up. Here it comes. So now 6 a turn, or it's going to be 4 this turn. Yeah. Gee, that clock really is. It gets into full swing very quickly indeed. And Magadias now is just.
He can't play his lands.
He just doesn't want to at all.
No.
He's down to 6. So Marauder now. Now we're going to see a Raven's Crime card with Retrace here.
1 mana, discard 1 card.
And cast again from your graveyard by discarding a land in addition to paying the costs.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So essentially Retrace makes it very difficult to flood out.
Right, at this point you just want to trade resources. You just want to trade cards in your hand for cards from your opponent's hand, because if you both have nothing, the racks are going to be what wins you the game, and that's what's happening here.
Magadias now takes 4 down to 2. Double rack getting it done here, and he's seen enough. Wow, packing it up. A very convincing win there for Marauder.
Yeah, I feel like Breno got a little unlucky. He had a bunch of 4 mana Eldrazi, or 4 or cheaper mana Eldrazi he could have cast off that Eldrazi Temple. He just never drew any of them. No Thought-Knot Seers, no Matter Reshapers, nothing like that.
Yeah, a Matter Reshape would have been real nice there as well.
Right, that would have been a decent protection against the smallpox because he would have gotten a card back. But his deck did not provide him any Eldrazi, and the hand destruction went to town.
That is the way that it ends up here, with Magadias taking a loss on the chin in game #1. Now, as we have a look at his sideboard, I mean, I saw him there just sort of rather puzzled, looking at cards like Grafdigger's Cage and whatever else. What are the cards that he can bring in that are get it done here? It's kind of, I mean, things like Natural State, nice option against
artifacts. I mean, he has Abrades as a way to blow up the rack in Natural State, maybe Engineered Explosives. But, I mean, I'm sure he didn't prepare for this matchup, and it was not one that I think he put his sideboard together anticipating, which is kind of the beauty of Modern, where you can show up with these roguish decks or off the beaten path decks, and your opponent really has to puzzle their way through how to fight you.
But this is one of the advantages that you gain from including a card like Engineered Explosives in your sideboard, right? Because it can come in and clean up those Shrieking Afflictions.
It's a good catch-all sideboard card.
That's a fantastic hedge, right? We can have a look at Marauder's sideboard, however. I mean, is there anything that he's got to go up against? I mean, does he even know what he's up against? He saw Eldrazi Temple, I guess, so he knows that it's going to be red-green Eldrazi.
Right. I mean, he's got a Bantu's Last Reckoning. He's got a couple Fulminator Mages, a Damnation. So he's got some decent cards against medium-sized creatures. I just think his plan A is probably just pretty good against this deck. It's interesting. I've seen a lot of these smallpox decks play Ensnaring Bridge in the past, but I don't think that's part of Roberto's plan here. No,
I'm actually surprised to see that his removal suite is relatively light as well. There's obviously Smallpox and Fatal Push, as we saw in this previous game, but there's not a huge amount of other stuff to take creatures off the battlefield. Liliana, another Edict effect here.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe the Lingering Souls buys him enough time.
Well, in the game of attrition, you certainly want to be on the side of 8-rack. Does the deck have obvious weaknesses? Are there lists that are particularly well positioned against a weird deck like this one?
The 8-rack decks?
Yeah.
You're asking the wrong guy. I have not played this deck before. I've kind of admired it from afar. We have Tom Ross in R&D right now working for us, and I know he's a huge proponent of this deck. We were designing some cards for, before we brought him in the office, we were designing cards for M19 and thinking about 8-rack and Modern, and we were actually, got him under NDA and we're asking him what he thought of some of those cards before we hired him. So he's clearly one of the best at those. He'd be the guy to ask.
Is that right?
Yeah.
See, so when did you hired the boss relatively recently, right?
Yeah, I think it was about 6 months ago, something like that. Yep.
And the general sort of work schedule for R&D is the cards that are designed, they come out about 2 years later, 1.5, 2 years later?
Yeah, about a year from when Tom and the rest of Play Design are working on them.
Yeah.
They're kind of in the end stages of the development cycle. So
we can expect Infect to be a major deck in Modern in about 6 to 12 months. Yeah.
You just came in and ran roughshod over our design files and added poison counters to everything.
Yeah, somehow all of a sudden Infect is making a return in in coming sets. Even though even if we don't go anywhere near Phyrexia, it can still, the boss is finding ways to make it happen. I'm sure that's something that fans of Infect, which has definitely fallen off the radar. I mean, we saw the banning of Gataxian Probe really do a number on the list. It was funny to see that Infect just completely...
Right, that seemed to be, oddly enough, the deck that was most crippled by the removal of that card. Because it relied so much on kind of going for it with all of its pump spells on a turn when it knew the coast was clear, and not having that shields down moment means that, it's just a really risky proposition, knowing your opponent could have a dismember, a path to exile, anything that could break up your combo.
I know that some people are bravely keeping the faith, and I've slammed Jammed Against Affinity, Infect, I should say, several times in playing Modern, even recently. So
yeah,
there
I
are
saw
some
Andrew
people
Cuneo was playing it in Vegas. So
yeah,
there are good players who still think. I think it's more of a surprise deck now than a metagame pillar for sure. But it's still powerful to only need to deal 10 damage to your opponent instead of 20.
Well, these players now shuffling up for game number 2. Both of them will have augmented their deck as their respective decks as they've seen fit to try to tussle here. Margalia is certainly under the gun. He's the one who has to come up with the goods and win 2 on the trot here. Marotta, I imagine he's gained a fair bit of equity throughout this weekend here. He's gained a fair bit of an advantage just on the pure surprise factor.
Absolutely.
With people just not knowing what's going on.
Well, I mean, I don't think that the deck is unknown. I just think that it's far enough off the radar that nobody built their deck anticipating having to play against it, and certainly doesn't have much in their sideboards to beat it. I mean, there are some cards like Obstinate Baloth that are good against discard strategies. That I don't know that he has.
No, we don't have any of that sort of thing happening in Margalia's deck here.
Liliana of the Veil has kind of fallen out of favor in the top decks in the format. She used to be, among the top cards played in Modern.
Yep.
But recent metagame shifts, she's kind of down in the rankings a little bit right now.
Black midrange really has not had a good year. We sort of entered 2018 with Grixis Death Shadow as just the absolute deck to beat. It was the #1 deck of the format, undisputed, had quite a significant metagame share, and that has changed. I mean, obviously, all the chicken lickens are still running around expecting the sky to fall on their heads after Jace the Mind Sculptor Bloodbraid Elf were unbanned, but ultimately I think, I was one of the people, I was saying this is it. I mean, Jace is going to ruin Modern, but it's in the best position it's seen, and Black Midrange has taken a back seat in the recent development.
Yeah, I think the emergence of the Hollow One decks and the Humans decks, as kind of the top strategies in the format have moved those Liliana decks out of the top spot.
Here's Noble Hierarch. Great start for Margalia as he's doubling his mana production already. But hey, look at this. Marotta's got the answer in the form of Fatal Push. We'll see if Margalia's can get on the board. It's going to be important for him to apply some early pressure. He doesn't want to fall too far behind. And hey, that's a nice one as well. Look at this, Mana Reshaper. Cast off of that Eldrazi Temple, of course. And with that, if it weren't for that Fatal Push, we would have had a turn 2 Thought Knot Seer. Here's a Wrench Mind now. Maybe Margalia's brought in his engineered explosives just to discard the Wrench Mind.
That'd be hilarious.
That'd be a great tech there. Looks like it's going to be a couple of lands that hit the bin here. But this is better stuff from Margalia's because, of course, with this 3-2 on the field, it essentially negates, again, that asymmetric effect that Marotta is going for with something like Smallpox.
And the Urborg letting him cast that BB spell, Wrench Mind, double black, with his Mutavault, which is a cool interaction. The Urborg will also let cards like Flagstones of Trocaire tap for black mana.
And an Eldrazi Obligator as well, cast for no value, just going to get in nice and busy here.
3-1 haste.
I love this, though. I mean, you've got to apply pressure, and Margalia's is doing exactly that.
Right, he only has 2 lands. One of them taps for 2 mana for these creatures, and it's enough.
Maybe he can start doing some damage of his own to Marauder's hand. He does have that Thought Knot Seer in hand. We'll see what Marauder's move is here. 3 mana. Is it a Liliana of the Veil? That's not a great card in this position.
No. He's going to make him sacrifice one of the creatures, but
sure.
The Matter Shaper gets him a card right back.
Fantastic for Magalias now because he's able to cast this Thought Knot Seer, no worries, next turn.
And pick off the Liliana with his Obligator.
That was not... I mean, we talked about the pitfalls of playing Liliana of the Veil, and here it is just not doing what it's designed to do. Oh, another Eldrazi Temple is going to mean that Magalias is in a position to keep up that Warping Wail as well as cast that Thought Knot Seer. A second Liliana, double Fatal Push, and a Bontu's Last Reckoning.
I think we should take the Bontu's here.
That is an answer to those creatures, but if that's a Warping Wail in hand, then Magalias has a nice little envelope answer there. Being able to counter the sorcery.
Right. That's fantastic.
Yep. That technology first unveiled when Paulo Dama de Rosa, the Hall of Famer, brought in a Warping Wail to counter opposing Supreme Verdicts, Aaron.
Counters opposing Supreme Verdicts.
Didn't work out the way that he'd hoped. Didn't work out the way that he'd hoped. No. But it is going to be Bontu's Last Reckoning. There you go. As you say, Aaron, it's going to hit the bin. So double Fatal Push and Liliana of the Veil returning down to Marauder's hand.
Right, both of his creatures are too expensive to die via Fatal Push without the Revolt. I mean, he could have draw a 4th land and Edict one with Liliana and push the other one. Would be a good turn for him next turn.
Well, in any case, we're going to see Liliana number 1 go down. Looks like Magalias wants to protect that Warping Wail in hand. Marauder draws an Inquisition of Kozilek. Let's see what he's up to
He really
next.
wanted the 4th land there.
Cast that Liliana.
Liliana, Edict, and then Fatal Push the other creature once Revolt. Oh, no, that wouldn't work.
No,
it has to be one of your permanents leaves the battlefield.
Liliana would still have to stick around.
That's right.
After that. So those Fatal Pushes very handily turned off. So here is another Liliana. Edict again. Away goes the Eldrazi Obligator, you would think. Oh, no, it's going to be... Oh, look at this tech. Make a 1/1, sacrifice that. Fantastic. Wow, Magalias not missing a trick.
The card does it all. Look at that.
It does it all. If you want to do anything at all in a game of Magic except counter Supreme Verdict, Warping Wail is your guy. Let's get in for 7, says Magalias. Marauder, he's just going to take it as well. Look at this. No other option for him.
Oh, my.
And another Thought Knot Seer off the top. That's a nice one. We're going to get rid of one of these Fatal Pushes, says Magalias. And the door really closing on Marauder here.
Yeah, I feel like he can... If he didn't have that second Thought Knot, he could have traded his Mutavault off for the Obligator and Fatal Push that way to get rid of one of the Thought Knot Seers. But now, any 2 of these creatures is lethal.
Yeah, this is rough stuff here for Marauder. He needs multiple answers, and I just don't think he's got them. Magalias as well, very handily hellbent. So that Liliana doing stone cold nothing right now. And this is what Magalias had to do. I mean, his first play was a Noble Hierarch, got picked off, but followed that up with a Matter Reshaper to keep himself on the board. And, I mean, it's funny. In this situation, the 8-rack player just has not looked to be in it at all.
No. Thought Knot Seer, such an amazing card here.
What a card, huh? So Marauder deep in the tank here. Right down the bottom amongst the gravel and the little plastic diver figure, but now he's had enough. He's going to pack him up, and we're going to game number 3. Much more impressed by the way that Magalias navigated that. I didn't even really see any sideboard cards come into play there. It just looks like a better draw, a decent level of interaction backed up with pressure, and that's the way you have to. That's the way, essentially the only way to deal with decks like 8-rack.
Right, I think he is main decking the Warping Wail, is that right?
Sorry, the Warping Wail did come in from the board, excuse me.
Okay, yeah, that's a sideboard card.
Yeah, it's a nice one too, and as we saw, an enormous amount of utility. Picks off opposing small creatures, counters a sorcery. It was a great answer to Scape Shift when that deck was sort of firing on all cylinders in Modern.
And makes 1/1 Eldrazi Scions to feed Liliana.
The flavor text mode.
Surprise.
Yep. Yeah. Secret mode on that card. So these players now going to have a look at their sideboards once again, try to get them ship-shaped for game number 3. What are you up to for the rest of the day, Aaron? I know that you're joining us for these 2 rounds, and then you've got something very exciting coming up with team coverage later on in the afternoon.
Yeah, we get to Tim and I will be covering the unlimited Rochester draft.
Oh, yeah.
That people have been qualifying for all weekend. I had the privilege of doing the beta one of these in Las Vegas. Super amazing.
Oh, my
watching
goodness,
these, historic old cards opened up and the players going crazy, getting their hands on them.
It was. I had to stay. I was in Europe, obviously, back at home in Scotland for that one, and it was shown at I think 4:30 or 5 a.m. It started, and I did not get a lot of sleep that night. I'll tell you that much.
So yeah, super happy to get to do that again. And in the meantime, around 2 o'clock here, we'll be spell slinging.
Oh yeah.
Myself and the other Wizards employees that are here, Trick Jarrett and Aaron Reed and Doug Beyer, playing some games against all comers.
Oh yeah.
And if they can beat us, they'll get a Grand Prix promo.
So, oh really? So just free Grand Prix promos being given away.
Yep.
Yeah. To all comers, Aaron. I bet.
Whoever can beat us.
So, all comers then. What have you brought along to spell? I love spell sling. I love spell sling. I do it most GPs.
I have Red Green Ponza and the Blue White Miracles in Modern, so some pretty decent decks there.
Nice one.
And I brought a Black Green Constrictor deck for Standard.
Oh wow, okay, that's very very optimistic of you, my friend. That deck has not been going too well recently.
No, I'm not a Goblin Chain Whirler kind of guy, so I'm gonna go off the beaten path a little bit there. And I have a Dark Depths deck in Legacy.
Oh, nice.
Yep. So. And then, I got a Pauper deck, and I've got a Commander deck, and a Brawl deck. So, basically whatever somebody shows up with, I'll be ready to battle.
It'll be good to go. Yeah, spell sling, fantastic opportunity to meet some of the biggest names in Magic at every GP, and also me as well, because I tend to get involved with it wherever I can. But no, it's just the best fun. It's the best fun. Just jamming, casual, easy games of Magic with people. You come up, you have a chat, you meet some people.
Yeah, they have questions. We talk. I get to hear their experience with Magic and what it's like playing here in South America, and they get to ask questions about us and Wizards and the different cards and sets and things like that. So yeah, it's a wonderful exchange, and free of charge.
Yeah, of course.
And if you're lucky enough to somehow beat me, you'll get a free promo.
It doesn't sound like a bad deal. And of course, the 25th anniversary celebrations are continuing after Sao Paulo as well. We've got some other. You mentioned before it was a Gen Con as well that we got some stuff going on.
Gen Con, and then there's another Grand Prix in Japan coming up in Chiba. So so there'll be different Wizards people showing up to all those events and continuing this wonderful celebration of the longevity of the little card game that could. The
little card game that could, as it is almost universally known. And of course, all of this is going to come to a head in about 3 weeks from now at the Pro Tour.
Yes, the Pro Tour 25.
It is going to be
3-man team constructed
huge.
in Minneapolis. All sorts of people showing up for that. The prize pool is amazing.
Yeah, it's $1 million weekend, and a fair chunk of that is going the way of players that do well on that Pro Tour because. Wow. It's going to be a big... I mean, the thing is, there's an entire generation of Magic players, myself included, who have never seen a Team Pro Tour. I was talking to Reed about this, Reed Duke, and he's this is one of the biggest names in Magic. He's never played a Team Pro Tour.
Right.
It's huge.
Right, and it has Legacy as one of the components, which is something we've never done outside of, the similar competitions we used to run at the World Championships, but not as a regular Pro Tour. There's never been Legacy play as part of regular Pro Tour. So super exciting.
Going to be a massive weekend, that's right. And me and the rest of the team coverage will be there to get you across it. You're not going to want to miss the moment of it. Not only are team events, they really bring some of the most fantastic stories to the forefront as well. But again, showcasing 3 formats, Modern, Legacy in particular, getting the spotlight shone on them is something I'm really looking forward to.
Yep, and Standard, so it runs the gamut of the entire 25 years of Magic.
Looks like we got a mulligan situation here for Roberto Marotta, and oh my goodness, he looked. Never look. # never look, Aaron. Do you look?
Do I look? Yeah.
You look?
I do.
I never look.
It's not right to look.
It's not. You shouldn't do it. There's nothing to be gained.
No.
Because you either look and you're like, oh, yep, okay, good decision. All right, I'll do it. In which case the outcome is the same. Or you look and you go, oh, I would have got there. And then
Right, then you start saying, I guess I should be keeping these one-landers
exactly.
or whatever. Because sometimes you get there.
It's bad. Oh, dear. Yeah, no, never look. Never look. I'm sure there are going to be people who disagree with me.
I used to play with a guy named Eric Taylor. He was one of the original kind of big brains in Magic that was writing articles back in the kind of nascent Magic internet, one of the greatest theoretical minds from the early days of Magic, and he was the one that told me never look. Just you were doing yourself a huge disservice by thinking that is the information that's going to influence your decisions. Like, it should be, it's Schrodinger's deck.
Yeah.
The top card of your deck is X% land all the time. Looking at them is only going to give you bad information.
Well, anyway, you slice it, Marotta is down to 6 here. Looks like Magalia is happy with his 7, so that's a great start already for him because, again, this is all about resources and the way that Marotta can trade off those resources to his advantage. We haven't seen any sweet smallpox plays from him just yet. Of course, you mentioned Lingering Souls, Flagstones of Trocare, some of the ways that the 8-rack deck can pull itself ahead. Looks like, rotate that deck 180 degrees. They don't want to draw his cards upside down.
Yeah, he had a smallpox in game 1 that was more or less just the kind of base case use of that card without any cool combos, but it was good enough there.
Looks like a keeper here for Marotta, going to scry.
And keep it.
And that one's staying on top. Oh, no, still thinking.
Debating. No, he's keeping.
All right, here we go. We're up to the races now with game number 3 between Brennan Margalias and Roberto Marotta. Red-Green Eldrazi versus 8-rack. Going to kick things off with an Inquisition of Kozilek. And wow, this hand is all business. Margalias has got plenty of threats to put on the battlefield.
Druid.
And what is this card?
I love this technology. So this is an elf. It's a 1-mana elf from Cold Snap that taps for colorless mana. So this was made to be kind of just generally worse than Llanowar Elves, except it was a snow creature, which mattered at the time. But funny enough, in this Eldrazi deck that specifically wants colorless mana, it is just better.
It's not often, you see a mana ramp effect of some kind where colorless is more desirable than colored mana. But yeah, when you're ramping into Reality Smashers, when you're ramping into Thought Not Seers, Spaghetti Monsters of all flavors, you want that colorless mana.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that'll slow him down.
So an Inquisition of Kozilek does get rid of that Boreal Druid. We're not going to see that guy make an impact here. Forest off the top and a Karplusan Forest. That's an old forest, Karplusan Forest there.
That's the Ice Age version. Yep, that's the one I used back when I was playing.
Oh, yeah? And tragically mismatched Swamp Seas for Marotta's going to power out a Raven's Crime. And is that it? Okay, well, Marotta's doing a good job of keeping the lid on things, but Magalia's really needed something like an Eldrazi Temple. He's got a hand that's full of 3-drops, and he would have loved to deploy them. At this stage, looks like it's just going to be a Scavenging Ooze here. Card joined the modern format with M14.
Right, it was originally in a Commander product.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
It was legal in Legacy long before it was legal in Modern. So here we're going to get to see the Obligator haste away the Liliana.
And you can see Marotta very, very prepared for that to happen. As a third mismatch swamp comes in. And what I really don't like about this mismatch business that Marotta's doing is that it's planned, very carefully planned. This isn't a Paulo Vita Dama de Rosa mismatch situation where he just grabs a handful of land station lands. He is hand-selected mismatch swamp. We got one that looks like it's from Beta. We got a full-out one.
It's probably a Portuguese 4th edition one, actually. Yeah.
And then we got it.
It's a celebration of 25 years of Magic.
You know what? I don't want to say. So there's some kind of celebration that needs to run in the privacy of your own home. And I tell you what, a mana base like this is not something that should be on display. Look at Margalias. He's put some effort in. That I can get behind that.
Right. OG Karplusan Forest, unstable basics. So Marotta can run the Liliana, kill one creature, get killed by a haste creature again if he wants to.
Maybe taking a different line here with a Thought Seize. This is not good for Margalias here. He's running out of action really quick. That Warping Whale, the only thing that's going to be left if the another 3/1 haster gets taken away, as indeed it does here. Man, we've seen Marotta, even after that mulligan, he's just kept pace with Margalias. And he's taking 3 a turn from this Obligator, but, there's not too much doubt that Marotta's going to be able to deal with it. That's a quick read of
Marotta's got Liliana in hand, another one, and no white for his Lingering Souls. So if he was planning on edicting away that Obligator, the Warping Whale trick Could happen again, just like it did in Game 2. Oh, my.
Okay, well, another fresh Eldrazi Obligator off the top here. And Magalias is just happy to rumble with these hasty boys here.
White mana. He wants white mana.
Finds the exact opposite. The least white mana card you can imagine came off the top there with an Urborg. Tomb of Yawgmoth. But hey, now he's swamps tap for black.
Yeah, so do his opponents. They tap for black as well. Yeah, the 1/1 spirits would be amazing here against the 3/1s. He could play Liliana, make both players discard.
He's kind of treading water here with another Edict. Get rid of one of those 3/1s. Magalia's still going to be able to hustle and bustle. But of course, yes, had he discarded the Lingering Souls, he'd be guaranteed to be able to cast it next turn. I love this card, Lingering Souls. It's just about the fair. Like, can you think of a fairer Magic card?
I had a hand in making this card, so I like it more than I should probably.
Oh yeah. Have you seen Tom Martell's bracelet?
No,
So I remember years ago when I first met Tom Martell, and I asked him, "Oh, what's your favorite card?" He didn't even answer. He just held up his wrist, and he had the bracelets that kids make with the little letters on cubes that you can put on a bracelet. He had one that had Lingering Souls.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, he won a Pro Tour with the card, so
he
it's
won the
fair
Pro
enough,
Tour
right?
Gate Crash with that card, and his deck was totally sweet.
Grove the Burn Willows now. It's the bin. But yeah, I think we can excuse him for having a long-standing love affair with that card.
What do we got there? Is that?
That is the Shrieking Affliction. There. Yep. This is racks 5 through 8 here.
So we'll take 3 for having 1 card in hand. Murata still can't find a way to deploy this Lingering Souls or get it into his graveyard.
Ancient Stirrings, here we go. This card's huge. One of the most powerful cantrips in Modern. Of course, comes with a very stringent deck building requirement, but hey, there are decks of all flavors that are taking advantage of this card.
Right, we've seen it in Ironworks, we've seen it in Tron, we're seeing it here.
We're seeing it even today in Affinity lists, which is just insane now with this hardened Affinity list that's starting to pick up some pace.
Yeah, I like that deck a lot.
Yeah, man. And a Matter Reshape is a nice one as well for Magalias. Marauder has just not been able to find the tools that he needs, namely white mana to hold off this onslaught. Here's a Thoughtseize.
All right, he knows his last card is Warping Whale still, right?
Which, of course, can counter one half of that Lingering Souls. Here is now...
Okay, well, here's a way to get his Lingering Souls into the graveyard.
Here is the Smallpox. So, both players... Let me see if I can get this right. Sacrifice a creature, sacrifice land, discard a card, lose 1 life.
Exactly.
I'm the best there is.
There it is.
Don't even worry about it. It's like Cryptic Command. You've got to remember 4 different things. So, we have the Reality Smasher heading to the hand of Magalias. He's going to lose a life thanks to that Shrieking Affliction.
All right, things are looking okay now for Murata. He can deal with the creature that's in play. Magalias can't cast any of the cards in his hand with the mana he has available.
So now we see Flashback Lingering Souls and a Bloodbraid Elf and a Reality Smasher unable, yes, as you say, to do anything about it. Oh, Marauder's having a think about it. I mean, it seems pretty clear that that's the play. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't know what's in his hand.
Locks it in. I think he's got a Thoughtseize in hand. Very ready to be wrong about that. Here are some Spirit tokens. Looks like he's got the original ones from the Innistrad block too. Oh, we're gonna get some Khans of Tarkir spirits happening here.
You never know which ancestral plane the spirits you call on will appear from.
Oh yeah.
Well, there's Reality Smasher.
Nice draw.
No. Oh, he decided to go with Bloodbraid.
No, of course, finding the Kessig Wolfrun makes
I thought that was an Eldrazi Temple.
Yeah, they do look kind of similar, right?
All right.
And a Warping Whale is going to exile one of those spirits. The other one, Imagine Yep, going to jump straight on top of that 3/1. And old mate BBE getting the value. Comes across for 3. Marauder down to 5, down to 2 even. Oh, big draw required.
He can't cast the Thoughtseize in his hand if that's what he does have with 2 life.
No, it's another Shrieking Affliction, excuse me.
Okay.
And a Raven's Crime.
Neither of those are going to deal with the 3-2 on the table.
Just a little too little and a little too late for Marotta, who fell victim to the value engines of Magalhaes. And I have to say, this is how you win games against 8-rack, is by essentially creating built-in 2-for-1s, right?
Right. Bloodbraid's a 2-for-1. Thought Knot's a 2-for-1.
Matter
Shaper's a 2-for-1.
Yep, leaning on those cards very heavily, and that's what got Magalhaes across the line. So congratulations to him. He improves now to 9-1. But let's be real here, Roberto Marotta not out of the
out of the running.
No, not out of the running at all, as he goes to 8-2. We're going to bring it back to the booth now, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, very great pleasure to bring you live coverage of Grand Prix Sao Paulo. My name is Riley Knight, joined by Aaron Forsyth, the Senior Design Director of R&D, and of course, as you explained to me, a previous pro player. I wasn't aware of some of your achievements. A couple of Team PT top 8s.
Yeah, the first 2 Team Limited Pro Tours, I made top 8, or top 4, I guess is what they do for those. Lost to Mike Turian, Gary Wise, and Scott Johns in the final of the first one, and then lost to Kai Boudet and Phoenix Foundation right at the beginning of his amazing ascent to power in the second one.
You were one of the first victims to that onslaught,
right.
huh? That's the way we go. All right, we'll be back, ladies and gentlemen. We've got to take a quick break, but on the other side of these ads, we will be back with more live magic coming your way from GP Sao Paulo. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back to the tournament floor here at GP Sao Paulo, ladies and gentlemen. Great pleasure to have your company. My name's Riley, joined by Aaron Forsyth, the Senior Design Director at R&D. We've got Time Walk Magic lined up for you here. We're going to be taking a glance at, well, a pretty established mid-range archetype in the form of Maru Pyromancer, but it's up against, a nice weird one for us to have a look at.
Yeah, through the red-green, through the breach deck that's trying to cheat in Emrakul. Primeval Titan or Woodfall Primus.
Oh, yeah, that's a cube special here for everyone to enjoy. So let's get to it, have a look at what happened in our Time Walk Magic here for this round at GP Sao Paulo. The format, of course, is modern, and we've seen, well, just an enormous amount of deck diversity this weekend, shown off once again by these two players here. Well, no, actually, excuse me, sorry, this is not the matchup that we promised. However, it is all the same. Never mind an all-star player in the form of Marcio Carvalho, the 5th-ranked player in the world. Looks like he might be on that Maru Pyromancer tip all the same. Pincelli's deck, however, it looks to be just straight-up burn. All right, okay. Through the breach, not quite getting it together this time around. Goblin Guide, the perfect start now for Pincelli. Going to reveal a young Pyromancer for Carvalho. He's under the gun immediately here. A lot of pressure being piled on. And no second land for him.
I guess he was hoping the Faithless Looting was going to get him his second land. It did not. Goblin Guide, however, found the way.
Yes, finds the way forward. And a Lightning Bolt as well for Carvalho keeps the pressure down. So he's going to be able to hit that land drop. And we'll see what Pincelli's next move is as an Arid Mesa goes hunting. Burns had a quiet couple of weeks, still at the top of the format, of course. It's very difficult to argue that it's anything other than a Tier 1 deck, but in the face of recent technology, KCI, of course, comes to mind. Maru Pyromancer has recently ascended to the top, and a pretty horrific matchup for Burn in blue-white control. Burn's been kind of pushed to the outer recently, Aaron.
Yep. Still, we saw it yesterday near the end of day 1 in a mirror match that was very entertaining.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the sparks certainly fly when it comes to the Goblin Guide deck. Let's see what Pincelli's next move is here. An Eidolon, perhaps. Yes, indeed. There it is. Eidolon of the Great Revel here now for Carvalho to deal with. Does have that land. Marsh Flats is going to keep the mana coming. Kind of awkward for him to start on a Sacred Foundry as well.
Yeah, how much damage is he going to take here?
Interesting to see if he thinks he needs that double red or if he's just going to go for a swamp.
Well, he has Bedlam Reveler in hand.
Yeah, which is not even that far away from casting, actually. But no, goes for the swamp instead. Obviously, trusting he'll be able to draw a red source at some point later on in this game. And let's see what he wants to use this 2 mana for here. So he's got 2 copies of Inquisition of Kozilek in hand, in addition to that Bedlam Reveler. Young Pyromancer, a couple of other cards hiding out in there as well. Coligan's Command, I think one of them is.
Lingering Souls in the graveyard.
But it's kind of tricky because the Eidolon it's always going to take its fee, right? It's always going to get that 2 life. There are very few cards that cost 3 or less that deal with it. And Carvalho now can't really enact his game plan because any of the cards that he wants to cast this turn are going to cost him 2 life. And none of them actually deal with the Eidolon.
Right, he's hoping, in a normal game, he'd be hoping to deploy his Pyromancer like he is here and then cast a flurry of cheap spells to make a bunch of 1/1s, but the flurry of cheap spells is kind of a bad
cost.
Deal with that Eidolon of the Great Revel sitting across the table.
Well, Carvalho deploys the Pyromancer all the same. Here's a Searing Blaze. Oh, that's brutal.
That is bad news.
That is a bad news bears here for Carvalho.
He's willing to take damage from his own Eidolon.
Back to Carvalho, who needs a 3rd land, doesn't find it. Collective Brutality, though, is a nice one. He's going to be able to really get some value. This card is absolutely backbreaking against Burn because the key thing about Burn is that all of their cards are essentially do the same. All of them do between 2 and 4 points of damage. Some of them do up to 6, right? Fantastic. If you can just remove that critical mass of cards that the Burn player has, it doesn't matter how you do it, right? If it costs you, if you can discard 3 cards to make them discard 3 cards, you would do that 100% of the time.
Right. So he's doing that here. He's going to
effectively what
discard 3 to gain some life or drain his opponent, I guess. Kill the Eidolon and take one of the cards out of Felipe's hand. So, yep.
But Pincelli's hand more or less perfect here. Just a bunch of burn spells. It's funny that the burn deck really, anything beyond 2 lands is kind of superfluous. The third one kind of comes in handy sometimes, but a hand like this is well set up to win the game over a course of a couple of turns, especially with Lightning Helix.
15 damage in his hand.
Yeah, it's no joke. It's no joke. Of course, Carvalho does have his pick of the litter here. May look to go after the Lava Spike due to the fact that it's cheap, or the Lightning Helix due to the fact that it buffers the life total.
So how much is he gained from the Collector Brutality? Is it
2?
2?
Yeah.
So he'll go to 12, take one of these cards, and still have to be dealing with 12 points of burn.
He is going to need to find another way to buffer that life total, and there aren't too many ways in the Pyromancer deck to do that. Now the Collector Brutality would be fantastic, obviously. See what he's got to work with here. He's discarding Kolaghan's Command and an Inquisition. But he does have another Inquisition in hand, so he's going to be able to lean on that to as effectively a healing salve.
There you go.
But looks like a Lightning Bolt off the top here. We're going to suspend a Rift Bolt. And Pincelli says, your turn, sir.
Right, he must know something's up because Pincelli could have cast Lava Spike there, so I'm guessing Marcio can deduce that he drew Lightning Bolt.
So Carvalho now. Metamorphose gives him another shot at finding something off the top of his library. He, of course, can still deploy this young Pyromancer. Tricky spot. It's been pretty choppy waters for Carvalho this game. After a bit of a loosey-goosey keep here, he has not really had the pieces come together. Finds a bolt off the top. So with that floating mana, he can, of course, deploy young Pyromancer. Or
right,
it could...
Pincelli can probably just ignore at this point.
Not hugely incentivized to spend a bolt at the creature.
Because if he bolts Carvalho here, untaps, the suspend comes off, and then has Lightning Helix, he puts Marcio down to 1.
So Carvalho, Bedlam Reveler is the play. Going to discard the hand and hope for some freshies. Liliana of the Veil, Mountain, and Faithless looting here. So Carvalho digging desperately. He has to find something because, as we saw, Pincelli does have that critical mass of burn that's going to be able to end the game in a real flurry here. Here's Lightning Bolt. Goes upstairs. Carvalho down to 7. He's got a couple of turns, though. Pincelli constrained on mana at this stage. Down to 4 thanks to this...
well, if he draws 1 land here, then...
Oh, and he's found it. Okay, never mind. Helix you, Spike you, and that is that there. Carvalho has to eat the loss, and we move on now to game number 2. The Portuguese player on the play. Kicking things off with the Black Cleave Cliffs. Pincelli now. Scalding Tarn. See if he's got a turn 1 play. Maybe a Lava Spike, maybe a Goblin Guide, maybe Monastery Swift Spear. All of them great ways to open the account for burn. Very difficult for burn decks not to have a turn 1 play, right, in all honesty.
Marcio's probably hoping for a creature because he has the bolt ready.
Yeah, the old Goblin Guide, get the trigger, draw the land, bolt it.
Yep.
Thank you very much for playing. Let's see what Pincelli's got to work with here. It's going to be a Lava Spike. Oh, no. Excuse me. It is a Rift Bolt. So Carvalho.
Effectively a Lava Spike.
Yeah, so on a slight delay. Catching up with the time zone difference here as we see Bloodstained Mire now for Carvalho. No play for him, no Pyromancer or anything like that in the face of that Rift Bolt, which goes off and dings him down to 17. Slower start for Pincelli so far. See what he can do with his second turn here. Takes 2 off the Foundry, and it's going to be another Rift Bolt here. So it looks like a pretty spell-heavy hand for Pincelli because the burn player, they'll almost always deploy creatures first.
Right. Because the creatures theoretically will do more damage over the course of the game than a Lightning Bolt will, but there are so many 3 damage spells in this deck that you can easily win without creatures. Just 7 spells, you're dead.
Yep, that's it.
Plus, with the damage you're taking from your own lands, it's often far less than 7.
This is the thing. I mean, if you're playing a 3-color deck in Modern, oftentimes, especially if it's a black deck with stuff like Thoughtseize, often you're starting the game on a virtual 15, or 17 at the very least.
Yep.
one of the reasons that blue-white control is unusually favoured against Burn is the painlessness of its mana base. It plays a lot of basics. It plays plenty of ways to tussle with what Burn is up to.
Yeah, and we've seen timely reinforcements showing up in those blue-white decks as well.
Going to speed things up a little bit here and move on as we press ever onwards towards round number 11. Joining you for round 11, of course, live coverage will be brought to you by Tim Willoughby and Lucas Esperbertu. They'll be coming into the booth here, subbing in for me and Aaron.
All right, looks like Felipe's deployed his whole hand, gotten Marcio down to 1, and there you go.
A Boros jump off the top is enough to get it done there. So as we bring it back to the booth, ladies and gentlemen, of course, we are closing out our coverage of round number 10 very shortly here. But, of course, plenty more modern action coming your way from Brazil. Aaron, I did have the chance to get into Brazil a little bit earlier, so I've enjoyed a week or so of traveling around Rio and whatever else like that. What are your impressions of the country? You got in a little bit. You got on the Wednesday, I think? Or was it
No, it was Thursday.
You got on the Thursday. It's been your first time in Brazil?
Yep, first time.
How's it treated you?
South of the United States in this hemisphere, actually.
Oh,
so
yeah?
First time in Latin America at all. It's been great.
Yeah.
The city is enormous.
It is so big.
I didn't know that it was the largest city in the Western Hemisphere and the Southern Hemisphere.
And the Southern Hemisphere,
I always thought Mexico City, but it's kind of an under-the-radar, massive metropolis.
Yep.
The food's been excellent. The people are super friendly. The weather's great. It's been a great time.
It's been a great time. Speaking of great time, actually, I've got some very good news. We have another Time Walk match to show you here, my friends, so let's get underway with more magic here. Round number 10 from GP Sao Paulo. And look at this. Wow, we are whizzing through it here. Grixis Shadow and Madu Pyromancer. So kind of the old versus the new here. Grixis Shadow, as we were talking about, Aaron, kind of fell off the face of the earth recently, but looks like Valero is flying the flag. And Madu Pyromancer, PV yesterday made the observation that it's kind of supplanted Jund as the mid-range deck of choice in Modern today.
Right. The power of Lingering Souls, as opposed to whatever the green cards were offering you, is just a huge upgrade. And I think, Bedlam Reveler kind of being the card that ties the whole deck together, where you get to just empty your hand, deploying tons of threats and killing all their creatures and discard, and then refilling with a massive 3/4 body, often for just 2 mana, and drawing 3 more cards. This is a huge deal. This
is the thing, and so much of the Madu Pyromancer deck costs 1 or 2. It's very easy to empty your hand out, and you're incentivized to play these 1 mana removal spells, discard spells, whatever, especially in the face of a young Pyromancer, because you just get paid in kind with those 1/1s. So the deck really is fantastic. Obviously made it all the way to the finals of their last Modern Pro Tour in Bilbao in the hands of Jerry Thompson, ultimately losing out there to Lantern Control. But I've been really impressed with this deck. I think that its rise to prominence and the role that it plays in Modern is a very positive one. Very honest, very fair deck, and that's always going to get a tick of approval.
It's fun to play. It's got a bunch of cool interactions. The cards work together very well.
I guess that's a good point. It is a more synergy-driven deck than most mid-range lists that we see. I think the overall effect it has on Modern is similar to Jund in the sense that it is a grindy mid-range deck, but the way that it operates is very different. The cards are more codependent. Young Pyromancer is not a good card in a vacuum, unlike something like Tarmogoyf.
Right.
So, yeah, it does require a little bit more support, a little more, a few more pieces coming together.
And personally, I love when decks work that way. I can appreciate that there are decks that are just, these are the best rate cards, period.
Yeah.
Try to fight your way through these, but whenever it's like, no, this card works well because of these other cards, and you can discard Lingering Souls to this, and you can make your Bedlam Reveler work better because you've made this play or that play, and I just love it when Magic works that way.
So we are going to see now, it looks like a surgical extraction cast on that Gurmag Angler. And Elton Fjord going to search through Carlos Valerio's library to find any copies of the big zombie fish. There's another one. And I imagine the full 4 are going to be extirpated here. And they hit the exile zone. So Fjord doesn't have to worry about them. That's a nice one as well. Difficult for the Madu Pyromancer deck to remove.
Yeah, 5/5 is a little bit outside of the range of their removal spells. And the delve aspect of that card makes it come down oftentimes scarily fast.
and also handily making it immune to Fatal Push.
Right. It is expensive and somehow cheap at the same time.
Yep. Yep. Who knew? Cost reducing abilities on Magic cards, very good.
Yep. That one is one that certainly surprised us. You know, it's a common. We figured it would be a cool play in Limited to get that thing out quickly. But seeing it show up in, even in Legacy, it was just like, wow. We didn't foresee that outcome with this particular
Didn't see that one coming. I remember reading the set reviews for Khans of Tarkir, and when LSV wrote about Treasure Cruise, he's like, I don't think this card is good. I mean, it seems okay, but I really want to be wrong about this card. And how wrong he was, geez. That turned out to be an absolute powerhouse. I liked the mistake that R&D made with Delve, though. I really do. Like this is without a shred of irony, right? I liked that Delve came in, turned formats on its head, was ultimately removed, ultimately judged to be too powerful, and rightly so. But the fact that mistakes like that were made, it indicates to me that,
I don't even like the term mistake there necessarily.
Sorry, experiment. Is that a better way to say it?
I mean, because I think we mostly nailed it for Standard, right? Okay. The power level of those cards was very fair and cool and powerful. And sometimes when we're doing that for Standard, we don't know what's going to happen with older formats, and to us, that's kind of a cool thing. We're going to release this new hyper-weaponized new mechanic into an old format and see what happens. We don't test those formats for when we make new cards like these, and we do want to see what players come up with.
And that's my point. That's what I was going to say. But that I like that this happened is the fact that we did have this kind of Wild West, sort of this, hugely crazy advancement to an old format that then ultimately settled. And what it said to me is it's good that R&D is willing to push boundaries and not go, oh, well, we probably shouldn't. It probably won't be, just try it. Throw the spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks.
No, we're definitely willing to release things that do one thing in Standard and do something wildly different in other formats without necessarily knowing what's going to happen. I think we could all predict, these cards will get at least tested. Some of them may show up, but they've turned out to be incredibly powerful in as much as we're seeing 5/5 vanilla as one of the premier threats in the format.
Well, they're not going to be doing any hustling and bustling in this game after that surgical extraction. Looks like Valerio is kind of slowly making his way through his deck. Faithless looting there, filtering out the draw. Fior has... looks like he's got a 1-mana spell of his own to cast. Is it going to be a Faithless looting? No? Okay. He's going to shock himself with a Sacred Foundry here. And we are going to see the looting after all.
Somehow Fior's the one who's getting his own life total precariously low when Valerio's the one with the death shadows.
Yeah, it's kind of the job of Valerio to get his own life total down, which Fior's done a great job of it. Down to 11 already. How's that happened?
Well, Surgical for 2 life.
And
Thoughtseize for 2 life, fetch lands,
Shocklands,
so, the whole. I'm sure Valerio's envious of how much Fior's been able to.
It'd actually be
take
great.
Away half his own life total.
It'd be great right now if Fior did have a Death Shadow in hand. It'd be a great play for him. Thoughtseize now for Valerio. Looks like he's going to catch up on that damage race. And 3 cards in hand, and oh my goodness, we can see exactly what's happening here. Bedlam Reveler, no thank you. Good night. Off you go. Let's see what's up next. Bloodstained Maya here. And Valerio ships only 1 card in hand. I think that surgical extraction, getting rid of one of the Gourmet Anglers out of hand, was just a huge play.
Right, he Thoughtseized one and surgical extraction the other.
So that's huge. I mean, we hear surgical extraction often maligned as a sort of last-ditch pressure valve against unfair graveyard strategies, but when it snags an extra card from the hand, oh my goodness. It is. That's
it's effectively another 0-mana Thoughtseize.
Yeah, it's huge. So Valerio goes and finds a basic swamp. We'll see what his response to this flashback, Lingering Souls. Flashbacked? Flashed back?
Flashed back. Yeah.
Flashed back? Yeah, I like that. I like passing it in that way. That's a little bit neater.
So Valerio getting a swamp, I mean, he could do more damage to himself getting a Shockland, but the Mardu Pyromancer decks do play Blood Moon.
Very true.
So he needs to make sure he'll have access to all of his colors should a Blood Moon show up.
And I think shocking himself in the abstract here in the hope of drawing a a Death Shadow, maybe a little bit optimistic here for Valerio, because he would still then have to do more damage to himself. He's got a Thought Seize.
Yeah, plus he knows Fior had a fatal push.
Of course. Yeah. Well, no longer if he so chooses. Lingering Soul's not the best hit with a Thought Seize, but there's still that young Pyromancer. Valerio's going to have a think about it here. Has a look through the graveyard of Fior now. I'm going to speed things up a little bit again because we do have round number 11 coming your way very shortly. And we don't want to miss a minute of that here. Back to Fior. Valerio just doesn't have anything going on, so Fior is in the driver's seat here with his Lingering Souls. Going to cast
now
another
that he
copy.
got his third land, he can just cast him. There'll be an overwhelming number of spirits here.
Yeah, and Grixis Shadow just doesn't have the tools to deal with this sort of onslaught here. They've got great point removal, but pretty bad in the face of Souls tokens. Here's the Death Shadow. It's going to be enormous, but Fior having put him down to 4. Here's a bolt upstairs.
There you go.
And that's the way that it goes. As we bring it back to the booth, ladies and gentlemen, one final time here, Riley Knight and Aaron Forsyth. And that is just about that for round number 10, my friends. We are going to, of course, bring Tim Willoughby and Lucas Esberbertu into the booth for coverage of the next round. Aaron, thanks for hanging out with us this morning.
That was fun. Got to see some cool decks.
Great to have you along. Not often that we get to hang out with people like you on stream, so it always makes for a nice fun morning.
Good stuff.
Yep. Thanks so much. And, of course, stay tuned for the entire coverage of today's event, because the Unlimited draft is coming your way after the finals of the event, and Aaron Forsyth will be back in the booth for that one with Tim. Right now, we've got to go to a break. Stick around, everybody, because on the other side of this, we've got more magic coming your way from GP Sao Paulo.